Right, well, Mark, here we go again. Comes around with alarming rapidity.
Well, every month.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's called a monthly Q&A, Johnny.
I mean, it goes quick.
I know it goes quick between the months, yeah.
Anyway, shooting straight from the hip, let's go in with the hardest question. Dave on Facebook, or perhaps it's not a question, it's more of an assumption. Given our failure to gain promotion last season and the obvious lack of a different approach this season, when will the board be putting pressure on the manager? Or are you bereft of passion and happy to pick up the cheque while doing nothing? Ooh,
it's a bit harsh, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I think, listen, about the board putting pressure on the manager, I don't think the board have to put pressure on the manager. He knows himself the size of the task in front of him and what's really, the fans and the board and everyone wants this season, as they did last season. So I don't think you have to put any more pressure on Paul than he's already got. He takes it very personally, as you know, I know, everyone around knows. But people vote with their feet. We're getting regularly 17,000 turning up for home games, massive away support. He inherited a team that was 16th in the league that finished 6th last year, just narrowly missed out in injury time in the playoffs, to make it to the final. And this year we're currently 5th, so we're improving, we're going in the right direction. And in regards of anyone who was at Cambridge on Saturday, you can see that we have got a different aspect to our game because we ground out we was down to 10 men for the last 30 minutes. It's 35 with the extra time actually, so there was a different side to our game, and obviously we're steadfast in our belief in Paul, and he'll continue to be backed by us.
And that at Cambridge was almost the plan B that some people say we haven't got.
Yeah, listen, I think it's always, in football you have to let the manager manage, and the one criticism that has never come out in 3.5 years since we become a community club is managers saying that they was unduly influenced by people on the board or myself or anyone else at the football club, and that doesn't happen. We've got a manager, we believe in him, we back him with everything that we've got, and everything that we've got depends on how many people come through the gate each week and the strength of our commercial revenue, and thankfully, touch wood, that keeps going up, keeps doing well, and we'll just continue to keep backing the manager. And
we have to reiterate here that some of the questions over the last couple of months have been pretty tame, and we all know what would happen if there were major dissension out there.
Yeah, I think that's, I go to all the supporters clubs meeting as you do, Johnny, and overwhelmingly the vast majority, are fully behind what the board are doing and Paul's doing. But that's not to say that on the back of a defeat or a poor performance, we don't feel the pressure. I know I do, and I know that Paul does. So I don't think you can say there's a lack of passion there, because I think that's, all too obvious. But I take on point of view of what's expected, and as I say, Paul knows what the aim is for this season.
Right, changing tack, and I think it might be one for the trust more than the club. In the foreseeable future, are there any possibilities to buy shares in the club?
Yes, I think that will come sooner rather than later. Anyone that is looking to buy shares in the club, I've got a database of people, ready to go back to. I think there's a few fine details that's being worked out at board level on the shape of how it's going to look, the trust, the share offering, and what it's actually going to be for. Because I think there's an emphasis that no one wants to see the money just coming in and then going straight back out on the pitching players, because our model is to be self-sustainable, and money and shares that come in, has to be for a tangible project. But I would hope to see that sooner rather than later.
Right, multiple fans. Sorry, should have said that was Johnny on Twitter. Wasn't me though.
No, okay. Unlike the first question. No, I'm only joking. Yeah.
Number 3, multiple fans. Is £15 not a bit steep for an FA Cup first round tie against fellow League 2 opposition? Would the club be in a position in the future to offer discounts for season ticket holders on cup tickets?
That's a difficult one, because we have to reach an agreement with the away club, and as I've said before, it's hard enough as it is to try and get it down to £15. And we've got £1 for kids, because we're trying to attract kids into that game to experience like a cup experience. So that's going to be a difficult one. It's a huge discount, really, 25% discount on a normal League 2 league game. It is the FA Cup. It's a cup competition that we're taking very, very seriously. So I think 15's as cheap as we're going to get it, Johnny, to be fair.
Yeah, and to reiterate, because we often say it, the other club has to agree to it as well.
The other club has to agree to it. And as I say, when clubs draw Portsmouth away, it's a nice payday for them. You know, let's face the facts of that. And what they're not going to want to do is butcher the revenue. And just to really, I did try to prove a point last year and it didn't work. In the first round, I think we had, was it Macclesfield last year? And we cut the price to £12 and I justified it by saying, no, we're going to get a load more people turn up. And then I think the second round at home was against Accrington where the price went up to £15 and there was very little between the gates. The cut in price didn't justify cutting the price. So I think as long as you're at £15, you know, that is a sensible price for an FA Cup first round game.
Yeah. Right, Dean on Facebook, why don't the club provide a training kit for all of the academy players all the way down the age groups? I happened to be at Roco and watched a little bit of our under-8 academy and they were all in different white t-shirts. With such a competition now amongst so many academies, can we not try to make the kids feel a sense of pride and passion? Dean on Facebook.
The answer to that, Dean, is we do supply training kits to all our age groups, but when you get to under-8s, they're actually not contracted to us, and at any one time we have 300 to 500 kids in that age group that just come and go, so it would be a very, very expensive day out to try and, you know, put them in full training kit. It's something I will speak to John Slater and Mark Kelly about to see if we can give them an option of buying training kits and that, but it's not something we could just dish them out free of charge at that age.
Okay, Simon on Facebook is another one we can put to bed, hopefully. There are rumours following an interview with Alan McLaughlin on TalkSport that he's still waiting for the money from his testimonial. Has this been resolved? If not, when will it be paid?
There's nothing to resolve, really. It's just our accountants speaking to Alan's accountants about various tax implications, the best way that Alan can be paid to make it tax efficient for him. And, you know, we're in regular contact with Alan and that, so again, I think that's a bit of a mountain out of a molehill.
Right. 6, twice...
Just on that, yeah, we're ready to pay that money as soon as his accountants go, yeah, we're happy with that, good to go, check signed, money's gone, end story.
Fine.
All right.
Right.
There is that.
Twice this season, crowds have exceeded 17,000, and yet the upper right-hand section of the North Stand is always empty. Is the long straight staircase the only impediment to bringing these seats back into use, or are there other issues? How high a priority is it to bring these seats back into use, David, via email, which is quite uncommon these days?
It is uncommon. That's a very, very good point. We're currently in the process of having that staircase manufactured. It's got to meet various building control regulations that has been quite time consuming, but it is high on our thinking, and it's difficult because there's potentially 3 weeks work in getting it done, and trying to fit the 3 weeks in between a 2-week game is just going to be pretty much impossible. And what we don't want is to sacrifice other capacity while that work's going ahead, because it's not simple as putting the staircase up there. It has to go all the way down, and foundations have to be dug into the lower north concourse, where it's, again, just to not make it seem more complicated than it is, even though it is quite complicated. There's soil samples got to be taken, and depths of the footings and foundations, you know, so there's quite a lot of work involved, but it is quite high on our priority list, and yes, we are hopeful that as soon as we've done that work, we will get an increase in capacity in that area.
Okay, multiple fans, and that's the second question from him. Any televised games likely soon, or at all? Alternatively, is it possible to stream live games through the Pompey Player service?
Okay, 2 questions there. The answer to the first question is no. There's nothing that we've been given the heads up on that is going to be a TV game, so there's nothing unofficially or officially at this moment in time that we've been made aware of, which is not good, because obviously it's a nice payout when you go on the
Does that surprise you slightly?
It does, although we have been lucky in the past year. I mean, most clubs don't ever get a TV game, you know, and we've been on there at least once a year, maybe 2-3 times. So That doesn't surprise me that we've not been chosen at the moment. I think they're holding back on the League 2 allocation just to see how the league pans out this year. So they'll probably wait the showing of the TV games for later on in the season. In regards of the streaming, it's something that's discussed quite regularly at Football League level. It's not something we can do unilaterally. And to be fair, we're at a time when the Football League are trying to increase gates. I don't think they're ever going to really agree in the short term or short or medium term to allowing clubs to stream games live, because obviously if we're travelling away to, say, Cambridge, and you're taking 2,000 fans, and fans know they can watch the game and stream it live, then you're going to get to a point where 2,000 fans just won't turn up at Cambridge. So it would have to be a strong financial case and an argument from all the other clubs to really push that one forward. So I can't see that happening not for a long while.
Jacob on Instagram. Chances of a US pre-season tour. History of English sides playing in America has increased in recent years, and we have player connections over there. Preki now coaches St. Louis, for example. Well, a lot of players.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I went out there a few weeks ago. Just took in a New York. I left after the Doncaster game. Went out there for a couple of days just to have a look. The New York Cosmos were playing on the Sunday. I went and took that on board. Looked at some facilities out there, and we are in dialogue with them. So it is a possibility, but again, it's one of them things that I'll have to have a real good sit down with the board and the manager and Anna Mitchell and commercial, just to see if we can actually get it funded and whether it's
financial implications out there, Brexit and what have you.
No, it's the problem you've got is because of Brexit and obviously the fall in the pound, it just makes it a lot more expensive because everything's going to be priced in dollars, and where it's edging towards a pound a dollar, something that could have worked out potentially a lot cheaper has now suddenly become very expensive. So there is that sort of implication. I mean, that's not the real breaker, but it just adds a significant amount of money onto any potential trip. But as I say, again, it's not. I'm just getting all the information together. Then I'll go to the board, have a chat with the board. Obviously, the manager, I think, is already would like to see it happen, but it's something that needs quite a bit of discussion and planning.
Okay. George on Facebook. Any chance of decent Wi-Fi at Fratton Park? I'm a Fratton ender. Always have a poor signal at the ground, and often hear others around me also complain.
Other clubs have tried and failed in getting Wi-Fi into the stadiums. It's very, very expensive. The bandwidth required, the amount of simultaneous connections is the real big killer, because potentially you've got 17,000 people connecting to a Wi-Fi at once, and there's not many systems that can actually cope with that unless you spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. So the clubs where it has been successful have spent hundreds of thousands of pounds. Clubs where it's failed have literally gone to Curry's and bought a few Wi-Fi distribution points and think that that's going to solve all the ills, and it doesn't. If we do it, we're going to have to do it properly, but as I say, that's going to cost many hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I know that it's something the Football League are looking at the moment, in doing as part of a global agreement with all clubs. So we just have to sit back and hopefully they can pull a rabbit out of the hat with that one.
It's a very hit and miss thing, Wi-Fi, isn't it?
It's hit and miss if you don't spend the money. See, that's the issue. If you spend the money, you can guarantee success with Wi-Fi in a stadium, but it's very, very expensive. Not just in the initial outlay on the infrastructure, but then the ongoing costs of bringing that much. Because it's not like you can just turn it off have a game, turn however many megabytes, thousands of megabytes of required bandwidth off. You then have to have it and carry it for the whole season. So ongoing costs are very expensive as well. But as I said, it becomes hit and miss the cheaper you try and do it. And unfortunately, financially, we're not in a position to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds and possibly tens of thousands of pounds in ongoing costs to run it during the season at this moment in time.
That was George on Facebook, by the way. Chris also on Facebook. Are half-season tickets going to be available? However, I realise it's unlikely as the sheer number of full-season tickets that exist already.
It was a difficult one, and we've had quite a lot of meetings about it for that very reason, that, you know, if we end up having a good run in, and we've already done getting on for 12,500 season tickets, and we then sell a load of half-season tickets, we're actually butchering our match day revenue. But the meetings have been positive in regards of, we've said that, you know, historically done a half-season ticket, makes a good Christmas present. So, yeah, we've sort of verbally amongst ourselves reached an agreement that we are going to be doing half-season tickets, and details should be released on that in the next few weeks.
Okay, well, that's the 10 questions. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I know you was talking to me earlier. Although there's not been a real direct question, just about the use of spies on a match day. Just want to make clear to everyone that we don't employ spies on match days, although we do have a confidential hotline for fans to call. So potentially there are 17,000 spies on a match day. And even though that we are a community club, we urge, as we always have done, if anyone's racist abuse, homophobic abuse, threatening behaviour, abusive behaviour, we are a community club and we have to cater for the whole community. So if anyone witnesses that on a match day, we do have the helpline, and everything subsequently is fully investigated after that, and again, that involves talking to supporters in that particular area at a game to find out the facts. We don't want to ban anyone. We hate it. It's the worst thing ever. You just don't want to do it. We've got a strict procedure in place. We try to keep it at an absolute minimum. We give people warnings and say, look, this isn't unacceptable. Your fellow fans say it's unacceptable. And when it gets to that point, then obviously we have to take action, because we can't have it where, to please 3 or 4 people, we got 30, 40 other people saying we're not coming anymore. You don't come to a game to be abused and threatened. So, and that, by the way, that's not for any specific case. I'm just talking generally. Yeah, there are things that were acceptable 20, 30 years ago that are no longer acceptable at football matches. And as I said, that includes racist, homophobic, abusive, threatening behaviour. We're a community club and we want to attract people in the wider community, but we don't want to take the passion out of football. But as you saw at Cambridge on Saturday, you can be passionate without being any of the above. You can still be very passionate.
Yeah. And it's nice to see the minutes observation too.
Fans! Wow, what do you say? I mean, yeah, for the fan, that was assaulted by the Southend United fans, shocking, quite emotional. And then on 53 minutes, their fans joining in with our fans, again emotional. And at the end of the game, I thought it was great when, I don't know if anyone actually noticed it, our players had done their traditional go up and clap our fans, started to walk down, and then I don't know who took the initiative to say, come on, let's go back out there again and have another couple of minutes with them. And I thought, listen, I think that could be a turning point in our season. I really do. I just felt something come together at that point.
A lot of people wouldn't have seen that, of course, because a lot of people had left the ground, but only a few actually witnessed that. Yeah,
well, I still think there was a lot behind the goal in the stand. And again, I found that quite emotional, really, with the fans chanting Blue Army, and just seemed to click there. I mean, it was a good day Saturday, all round, and thankfully we got the result that, has been missing recently.
The 5 minutes extra time kills you, doesn't it?
Well, the 30 minutes plus 5 minutes after Amin got sent off was, I think that was probably the longest 35 minutes of my life. But no, it was, like I say, it's always enjoyable when you get the result. And as I said, I'll just reiterate that. I think it was a bit of a watershed, the players and the fans there at the end. There just seemed a bit of a bond that, something a little bit special there.
Well, that's the appropriate way to leave it.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, Johnny. Cheers.